Alright, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my Hearthstone, the Grand Tournament review. And today we are going to be continuing on with the neutral epics, legendaries, and maybe some class cards as long as this doesn't go on for too long. So let's just jump right into it. And first off, we have the Garrison Commander. 2 mana, 2/3. You can use your hero power twice on your turn. This card is really hard to judge because we haven't seen all of the cards. And obviously there is a lot of synergy between a lot of the hero power cards that we've seen, but they're just really hard to mesh together, right? They're really hard to just say, oh, you can play all of these and you can hero power a bunch of times and win, right? It's like even if your deck is based around hero powering, first off, you have to have a hero power that makes an impact, which honestly only Hunter's hero power has a gigantic impact on the game. Because just dealing 2 damage to face is often really annoying. As we all know, face Hunter is extremely annoying to play against. So I don't really know what to think of this card right now. Maybe in some weird mage decks where they're running a lot of the new hero power cards, I feel like this could be a good card. But other than that, I'm really not too sure about any of the hero power cards in general, and especially Garrison Commander. The 2 mana 2/3 stats though, they're fine. I don't think there's really anything bad with that. So, anyways, next up, let's move on to the Master of Ceremonies. So we have Master of Ceremonies, 3 mana, 4/2, Battle Cry. If you have a minion with spell damage, gain +2/+2. Now, obviously, this card is going to it's going to be really controversial because you have to have a spell damage minion, right? And there's not a lot of spell damage minions, especially not many that cost under 3, right? But there are 2. There is Cobalt Geomancer, 2 mana 2/2, spell damage +1, and then we have Blood Mage Salanos. So, there's definitely a possibility that you can play those 2 on turn 2, and then play this on turn 3, and then have a 3 mana 6/4, which is pretty ridiculous. Obviously, it still dies to cards like Flame Cannon on turn 3, but it's still very good value. 3 mana 6/4 on turn 3. That's ridiculous. What I've also thought about is, let's say you're playing as Priest, you play a 2 mana minion, turn 3, you use Velen's Chosen on it, and then, on turn 4, you can play Master of Ceremonies, and then if you have something like Power Shield, then your Master of Ceremonies becomes a 4 mana 6/6, which is incredible stats. I don't really think you can get that anywhere else in the game, but obviously there's a lot of ifs to it. If you have a spell damage minion, if you have Powered Shield, but I do think that there's definitely going to be a place for this card. There's also the very large possibility of more spell damage cards being released with the last part of the Grand Tournament cards that we haven't even seen yet. So that's definitely a possibility. But anyways, I think it has some potential at least to be a pretty solid card. Next up, we have Crowd Favorite, which is honestly, I think, the best epic coming out that we've seen at least currently. It's a 4 mana 4/4. Whenever you play a card with Battle Cry, you gain +1/+1. Now, obviously the 4 mana 4/4 stats aren't the greatest because your average 4 drop is a 4/5. But I do think that generally on turn 4, you're not sorry, as long as you're going first, I don't think you're going to face that much resistance with a 4 drop. So I definitely think that there's a possibility that you play this card and then on the next turn you can play at least 1 Battle Cry. Meaning, obviously, if you're running this card, you're going to be using a lot of cards with Battle Cry, right? So you wouldn't just throw this card in a deck without Battle Cry. Maybe in Arena that would happen, but anyways. So, and then you play 1 card with Battle Cry on the next turn, and this becomes a 4 mana 5/5, which is great value because, like I said before, the average 4 drop is a 4/5. If it becomes a 5/5, it's above average. And even as a 4/4, honestly, it's still not that bad. Those are still pretty decent stats for a 4/4. And it also has the ability to not really oh my god. It doesn't have the ability to snowball out of control, but it can definitely become a huge minion just from, playing cards with Battle Cry, I can't really think of an exact situation where, it would be an insane card. But, let's say you play Crowd Favorite turn 4, then turn 5 you have a Shattered Sun Clair, you buff this minion up to a 5/5, and then because Shattered Sun has a Battle Cry, it becomes a 6/6. Bam. And then you still have 2 mana left. You can play a spell with that, hero power, do whatever you want. I think it's going to be a solid card though. Next up we have Kodo Rider. Not Koro Rider. It's a 6 mana 3/5 and its Inspire is summon a 3/5 War Kodo. Now, this card has received a lot of flack. Um, Obviously, you can see why. The absolutely only way I can see this card being like any useful is you play Kodo Rider, and let's say you already had a Garrison Commander or something on the board, or made him the Lake that caused your hero power cost 1, and then you hero power instantly, you get another 3/5, they don't clear it, and then let's go the full way and say they have Garrison Commander and Maid of the Lake. Then you play Kodo Rider on turn 8, let's just say. Then you hero power twice on turn 8 with Kodo Rider out. Then you get 3/5s for 8 mana. That's pretty good. But other than that, that's at a very extreme situation. I don't really think that situation will come up a lot. Maybe in Arena this card can be okay, but 3/5 stats for 6 mana drop are still very bad, especially for Arena. So, not too sold on it. Kind of has some potential though. Next up we have Grand Crusader, 6 mana 5/5 Battlecry. Add a random Paladin card to your hand. I personally think this is pretty atrocious. Paladins class cards aren't the greatest. Like, you can get Blessing of Kings or True Silver Champion or Consecration, maybe Equality can be alright in some cases. Lay on Hands, Avenging Wrath. Actually, the more I think about it, I guess it doesn't seem that terrible. But it's just, there's quite a few bad Paladin class cards, and you don't, is a Paladin class card really worth you paying 6 mana for a 5/5 minion? It might be, but I'm not exactly sold on it. I personally just think that this card's a little underwhelming. Although the fact that it's a common card obviously makes it so that getting a random Paladin card is kind of interesting, but other than that, I'm not too interested. Next up we have the last neutral epic card, and it is Frost Giant. This card is definitely interesting because, in a deck like Handlock, where you do hero power a lot, generally on Handlock you hero power your first two turns that you can hero power, like turn 2 and turn 3, you generally hero power. Whether or not you hero power enough to reduce a 10 mana card to something reasonable, obviously, even if you played Frost Giant for 6 mana, a 6 mana 8/8 is still really good. But again, the problem is you want to get it to so low of a cost that if you play it and it gets BGH'd, you don't feel absolutely terrible about yourself. So, what kind of deck this will be good in, I'm personally not too sure of, but I definitely think it does have some potential. All the giant cards are, pretty solid and played in some sort of deck, so I'm sure this giant will definitely find its way into some deck. Anyways, next up we have the neutral legendaries card. There's 8 of them so far, and I'm actually very excited about this neutral legendary that I am clicking right now, and I will tell you exactly why right now. So we're gonna start off with it. 3 mana 3/4 Aegis Darkbane. Whenever you target this minion with a spell, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Now, this card is insane. If you look at it in decks that already exist, or decks that can be created, obviously the first one I thought of, Priest. Priest has a lot of buff cards that has Velen Chosen, Powered Shield. It also has things like Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. Those are targeted spells as well. I can't necessarily think of any more targeted spells, but still, those 4, if you run 2 of each of those, that's 8. That's a lot of buff cards, if you played this card on, let's say, turn 3, and then it survives until, turn 6 or something, you can, Power Word Shield, and then Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. You just target it with 4 spells, so it's going to do 12 random damage, and if, some of that goes to face, and, if you do use these spells I just said, it would go up to, 8 health, and then to 16, so it would be a 16/16 that just did 12 random damage. That's insane. Obviously, that's a little bit of an extreme case. Obviously, I'm going for the extreme cases. I've also thought about a very extreme case of Warrior, where this card's really good. You play this with War Song, and then you run cards like Inner Fire. You run 2 of those. And if you have 2 Rampages, actually, So uh, for 10 mana um, you can play Warsong Commander, Aegis Darkbane, and then you can Inner Rage it twice. It's not Inner Fire, it's Inner Rage. That's the one. You Inner Rage it twice, which would put it up to 7 attack, and then it has just dealt 6 random damage to an enemy. And then you Rampage it twice, so it goes up to 13 attack, and it deals another 6 damage. So 12 random damage to an enemy, and then it has 13 attack. So that's, obviously that's an extreme case, again, but I mean, that's the point, like, when someone thought of Grim Patron, it was an extreme case until it became reality, right? So I definitely see Aegis Darkbane as having a lot of potential as a card. I think it is currently the best card to, oh my god, I'm coughing all the time. Anyways, I think it's currently the best card that is being released in the Grand Tournament, and I'm very excited to get it. I will definitely be crafting it first. If I don't get it with my first, 70 or whatever packs I open. But yeah, I think it's a very good card. Next up, we have Fiola Lightbane. Whenever you target this minion with a spell, gain Divine Shield. Obviously, this card, again, will be very good in decks like Priest and maybe even Paladin. Paladin, you play this card turn 3. It's a 3 mana, 3/4. Next turn, you Blessing Kings. It becomes a 3 mana, 7/8 with Divine Shield. That's pretty insane. So it definitely has a lot of capabilities. Definitely has a lot of potential to be very good, and I believe that it will definitely be run in at least some sort of decks. It just has great stats even without its special ability, and I think with that, it's just going to push it way over the top. Next up, we have Gormok the Impaler. This card has gotten a lot of hype. A lot of people think it's really good. I personally think it's really bad. A 4 mana, 4/4 battle cry. If you have at least 4 other minions deal 4 damage, like, when you look at Hunter, you can deal 5 damage with 3 mana and kill command, and all you need is 1 beast. But for this, you need 4 minions to do 4 damage. Obviously, it's a common card. It's a little bit different than an only Hunter card. But I mean, it obviously has to be played in aggro deck that consistently keeps 4 minions alive. I think that's really hard to do. Obviously, it's not hard to do for something like Hunter. If Hunter just plays Unleash the Hounds, it's pretty easy to get 4 minions on the board. But to play Gormok the Impaler on the same turn as Unleash, that's 7 mana. And you don't want to get to turn 7 on Face Hunter. So, I'm not entirely sure where Gormok the Impaler is going to fit in. But a lot of people have some hype for it. I think it's an alright card. Nothing too special. Next up, we have Nexus Champion Sarad. 5 mana, 4/5 Inspire. Add a random spell to your hand. This can be okay. Not necessarily anything amazing, though. Because obviously, on turn 6, you're going to want a hero power to get the random spell. And if you don't get a good random spell, it's going to feel like crap. But obviously, there are cases like, let's say, play this on turn 5, your opponent plays something with like 6 health or something, let's say Druid of the Claw, taunted form. Then, you hero power into Fireball. Bam, you just killed his thing. Druid of the Claw. And then you keep your Nexus Champion Sarad alive. Obviously, there's cases like that, but that's extremely RNG based. There's a lot of spells in this game. The chance of you pulling a Fireball out of your ass in a situation like that, very, very ridiculously unlikely. So I'm not too sure about it. I think it'd be pretty cool though. Not the greatest stats for a 5 mana drop, but definitely a pretty cool Inspire effect. Next up, we have Justicar Trueheart. 6 mana, 6/3 battle card. Replace your starting hero power with a better one. I actually don't have the picture of the improved hero power, but if you want to see that, you can find it pretty much anywhere. And yeah, it just upgrades your hero power. Just to give you a little example, Priest, it heals 4 instead of 2. I think Paladin summons 2 1/1s instead of 1. Hunter, it only goes up to 3 damage to face, not 4, which is interesting. And then, Warlocks, it becomes just draw a card, no lose 2 health, which actually isn't really good for cards for decks like Handlock, so it's kind of interesting. But I don't really think this card will be played, but I think it's definitely an interesting mechanic, and will probably spawn some different, different kind of decks. So, we'll see. I don't know. Next up, we have the Skeleton Knight. 6 mana, 7/4. Death Rattle, reveal a minion in each deck. Joust mechanic again. If yours costs more, return this to your hand. Absolutely useless. You do not want to play a 6 mana 7/4 more than once. You don't want to play it at all. So I don't really know why, like, you would ever want to play this card more than once. And even if you could, you still have to win the joust, which is, it's not always going to be 50-50. Obviously, if you're playing a control deck, you're playing a rush deck, it's more likely that you're going to win. Yes, but you do not want to play a 6 mana 7/4. Like I realize I already said that, but I just can't stress how terrible this card is. If it was like a 6 mana 7/5, still wouldn't be that good, but it'd be a little bit better. Like 4 health dies to a 2 mana spell in Flame Cannon. What? How is that good? How is this card good? I don't get it. I don't know what Blizzard was thinking. Maybe we'll find something out about it later, though. Next up, we have Sky Captain Crag. 7 mana. Oh my god. Sorry about that, guys. 7 mana, 4/6 with charge. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Anyways, costs 1 less for each friendly pirate. And by each friendly pirate, I'm assuming it means on the board, which makes this card pretty crap. Obviously it's an attempt to bolster up some pirate decks, which I can agree with. But like even Pirate Rogue, I think, was the pirate deck that resurged not too long ago. Most of the time they didn't have more than 2 or 3 pirates on the field, and let's say they had 3, a 4 mana 4/6 with charge. Okay, actually I can see that being a very good card, but obviously this is strictly for pirate decks. So as for a pirate card, it's pretty good. For a normal card, not that great, obviously, in decks that aren't pirate decks. And then last but not least, last card I will be reviewing this video is Ice Howl. 9 mana 10/10. I actually haven't seen this card before. Charge, can't attack heroes. So at first glance you think this card sucks, right? Can't attack heroes, cost 9 mana. The stats are good, 10/10 for 9. Not bad. Not the greatest, but not bad. But the fact that it can't attack heroes sucks, right? Well, not necessarily. So my idea with this is you play it. It's a gigantic creature that they they don't have to remove it, but I mean, it's such a looming threat that you would think that you want to remove it. And if they don't, you can silence this card, right? You can silence this because the only effect that it has, other than the can't attack heroes, is charge. And if it's already been played and it's already attacked on the first turn, you can silence it because you're not losing anything. You already used the charge effect, right? So then it becomes a minion that can attack face. Obviously, you don't want to silence at turn 1, or sorry, not turn 1. The first turn is played. It's also pretty hard to because it's a 9 mana cost, but you don't want to silence the first turn because then you lose the charge. But I think that you silence it, then it becomes a very strong looming threat. It already has 10 attack, so it can do a ton of damage, and definitely wreck faces. If it does get played, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not saying it's an amazing card, but I definitely think that it's not an absolutely terrible card like Mr. Skeleton Knight here. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching part 2 of my review. Sorry it took so long, but I'll be moving on to the class cards next. Try to get through those ones a little bit quicker. But if you enjoyed the video, please like the video, subscribe, leave any comments about what you think about any of the new cards, and I will see you guys later. Make sure you check out part 1 and part 3 of my Grand Tournament review. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day.